A woman is hiding behind her car changing clothes when a man suddenly appears, startling her so badly that she quickly covers her chest and rushes to put on her tank top. Seeing that he means no harm, she relaxes a bit. The man notices her car has broken down on the side of the road, and without hesitation, he takes off his shirt, revealing his impressively chiseled abs. Without saying a word, he gets to work fixing the vehicle. In no time at all, he has the car running again. Annie thanks Jack profusely and gets ready to drive away. But as she travels down the road, she glances in her rearview mirror and sees something that makes her pause. Jack is walking alone on the desolate, empty highway. So she decides to turn around and offer Jack a ride. Little does she know that the seemingly helpful man she's picking up is actually a twisted psychopath. As the two of them drive along the empty road, they start chatting to the rhythm of the music playing, and the conversation flows surprisingly well. Jack transforms from his initial polite and refined demeanor into someone who talks about absolutely everything. The topics even start getting uncomfortably crude and inappropriate. This sudden shift catches Annie completely off guard. Thoroughly disgusted, Annie immediately pulls the car over to the side of the road and demands that he get out. But Jack suddenly grabs her arm and pulls out a sharp knife from his pocket. He threatens Annie, forcing her to drive to a wooded area about 10 kilometers away. Annie is terrified out of her mind and has no choice but to follow Jack's orders. However, as they approach a sharp curve up ahead, she notices that he isn't wearing his seatbelt. A bold idea suddenly flashes through her mind, and she slams her foot down hard on the gas pedal. When Annie regains consciousness, she finds herself hanging upside down in the car, held only by her seatbelt. One of her legs is wedged tightly in a groove beneath the seat, and there's absolutely no way she can move it. She looks through the rear-view mirror toward the back and sees that Jack has been thrown from the vehicle. From the looks of it, he might already be dead. After Annie quickly tends to her wounds, she frantically searches for her phone to call for help, but it's been thrown somewhere out of reach during the crash. What's even more terrifying is that suddenly, through the rear-view mirror, she sees Jack move. Fortunately, she spots the knife that fell nearby. She struggles to shift her body and manages to grab hold of it. A large foot suddenly appears. Incredibly, despite the massive impact that threw him from the car, Jack only has a minor scrape on his head. Everything else is completely fine. Seeing Annie's miserable condition, Jack is clearly delighted. He decides to go find a place to rest and recover, planning to come back later to slowly torture Annie at his leisure. At this moment, she feels utterly hopeless and uses every ounce of strength she has left to cry out for help. However, in this wilderness, there isn't a single soul for miles around. As night falls, Annie is still trapped inside the car, unable to escape. By now, Annie's strength is completely depleted. She finds a jacket to cover herself and slowly drifts off to sleep. Early the next morning, Annie is woken up by the sound of Jack moving around. She grabs the half-empty bottle of water and takes a big gulp, but after just one sip, she spits it back out. She knows this is her only lifeline, the only thing keeping her alive. Another day passes, and night comes again. This time, she falls asleep much earlier. But when morning arrives on the second day, Annie is awakened by the sound of footsteps. She immediately grabs the broken piece of rearview mirror to check, and sure enough, it's Jack. Seeing that he's holding water and food in his hands, she thinks for a moment that maybe Jack has had a change of heart. But instead, right in front of Annie, he opens a bottle of water and starts drinking it himself. This sight drives the hungry and thirsty Annie absolutely crazy with frustration. Jack then tells her that he'll help her get out, but only if she agrees to one condition. Faced with this impossible situation, Annie has no choice but to compromise. But then Jack makes his demand. He wants her to tell him every single detail about her first date with her boyfriend. Annie reluctantly reveals the entire story from beginning to end. But this guy turns out to be a complete animal. Not only does he refuse to give her the food, he simply turns around and walks away. The woman has now been trapped inside the car for 3 days and 3 nights because her leg is stuck beneath the seat and she can't move. During this time, this terrible man shows up every single day and eats food and drinks water right in front of her, constantly taunting and mocking her. But there's no one for miles around, so Annie has no choice but to silently accept her fate. With no other options, she finds paper and a pen in her bag and writes down everything that's happened to her, hoping that someday the police will find this clue and bring Jack to justice. She then pulls out a lighter and starts a small fire, falling asleep by the warmth of the flames. But in the middle of the night, she's awakened by a rat biting her. Annie quickly flings it away. Looking around, she sees that the inside of the car is crawling with rats. Unable to drive them all away, Annie has no choice but to kill them one by one. Seeing the woman turning violent against their companions, the other rats scatter in terror. But Annie hasn't eaten anything in 3 days and 3 nights. Looking at the dead rat's body, a dark thought crosses her mind. At this moment, she's truly been driven mad by hunger. She uses the knife to cut off some of the rat's flesh and skewers it on a stick like a kebab. After eating her fill, Annie gradually falls asleep again. But when the 4th morning arrives, she's awakened by the vibration of her phone. She discovers that the phone has fallen onto some leaves outside the car. Using every bit of strength she has, she manages to hook it closer and pull it in. By the time she gets it, the caller has already hung up. Just as she's about to call back, that psycho Jack shows up again. Annie quickly hides the phone, but when Jack sees the eaten rat meat, he actually seems impressed by her survival instincts. He's about to leave when suddenly the phone vibrates again. Jack immediately becomes suspicious. Without a word, he climbs into the car and snatches the phone from Annie's hands, then stomps it into pieces with his foot. However, Jack isn't completely devoid of humanity. He puts down a black bag and pulls out a hammer and a steel saw, giving her 2 choices: either saw off her own leg or stay trapped in the car and die. After Jack leaves, she tries sawing through the seat itself, but that method simply doesn't work. Yet she doesn't have the courage to do it to herself either. Soon night falls again. Annie is desperately thirsty, but there isn't a single drop of water left in the bottle. With no other choice, she positions the bottle beneath herself. Before she can even taste whether her plan worked, the sky suddenly opens up with a torrential downpour. Just as she's filled with renewed hope for survival, a car suddenly passes by. Annie immediately starts screaming for help, but shockingly, the person in the car is Jack. Seeing this, Annie quickly lies down and plays dead. Jack, unsure whether she's actually dead or alive, climbs into the car to check on Annie's condition. But he doesn't expect that the seemingly dead Annie suddenly stabs him with the knife. With his last bit of strength, Jack manages to crawl away and escape. As the rain intensifies, Annie thinks she's surely going to die. But incredibly, the rainwater causes the car to slide down the slope, and her trapped leg finally comes free. Annie successfully escapes. Not daring to waste a single moment, she runs toward the edge of the forest. After jogging for a while, she spots a house with lights on in the distance. While fleeing, the woman suddenly witnesses a horrifying scene. A woman inside the house is letting out agonizing screams of pain. After looking around, Annie discovers that the culprit is none other than Jack, the same man who tried to kill her. He's viciously torturing the woman inside. With one final piercing scream, the homeowner is killed by Jack. But Annie is determined to make him pay for his crimes. While Jack goes outside to relieve himself, Annie quietly sneaks into the house. However, the scene inside shocks her to her core. The homeowner isn't the only victim. It turns out that over these past few days, Jack has turned this place into his own personal killing ground. Just as Annie is about to free the women inside, Jack suddenly walks back in. In her panic, Annie quickly hides behind the door and grabs a gun she's found, firing a shot directly at Jack. But the shot misses completely, and Annie's cover is blown. The 2 of them immediately engage in a brutal fight, and Jack manages to wrestle the gun away from her. Fortunately, at the critical moment, one of the other captive women steps in to help, and together they manage to escape the room. Annie quickly hides under a table, but Jack finds her almost immediately. After an intense physical struggle, Annie is no match for him and ends up pinned beneath him. Just as Jack is about to assault Annie, she summons every ounce of strength she has left and kicks him hard in the groin. While he's writhing in pain, she seizes the opportunity to run upstairs and hide. After recovering, Jack comes upstairs looking for Annie. She charges at him from behind, causing him to fall from the 2nd floor. One of his legs gets caught in a bear trap. Annie then approaches Jack and gives him the same 2 choices he once gave her: either cut off his own leg or wait for the wolves to come and eat him alive. With that, Annie takes the rescued woman and leaves the house behind. And that's where the film ends. If you enjoyed this intense survival thriller recap, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more movie breakdowns just like this one. Drop a comment below telling us what you would have done in Annie's situation, and share this video with anyone who loves a good revenge story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next recap.